Hey guys, it's good to see everybody on a Monday evening. We are live and we don't have a lot of time with our special guest this evening, so I'm going to go ahead and get right to it. We are here with Alpha Enos of Motion RC. And Alpha, it is awesome to have you on the show. Thank you for being here. Um, Man, it's a pleasure.
Hello, Dave.
Hello.
That's my HAL 9000 impression. Hello, Dave.
So I don't know if you're actually able to see the stream, but I put a little HAL 9000 graphic as your picture for us.
I love it. Yeah, good to be here, buddy.
Yep.
Good to be here.
So I want to jump right into this because for the folks in the room, Alpha's got a hard stop here in about an hour. So I want to get right into the meat and potatoes. First off, I want to say, my goodness, congratulations to Motion RC and yourself. These past couple of weeks, you guys have delivered a couple of absolute Grand Slam home runs with the MiG-29, and then hitting us in the face 2 weeks later with the Gripen. I mean, wow, what a couple of awesome jets.
Thanks. Yeah, we've been really grateful. I mean, thanks to everyone for making them. They're on track to both be two of our largest releases ever. So in the depth of that pandemic and all that's going on, it says a lot for our customers trusting us, and we're very grateful. Very excited, very grateful.
So I want to make sure, can everybody in the room, can you guys all hear Alpha okay? You should be able to.
You'll want to.
Awesome. So we're getting some positive responses there. That's good. So, one of the questions that I had for you is, when you guys are planning out these releases, what kind of drives that decision-making process to take two, what you guys had to have known were going to be really special jets and release them back to back like that? Were you guys, was there any concern that, with the MiG-29 coming out and obviously trying to fill up enough pre-orders to sell those units, and then releasing another plane as awesome as the Gripen right behind it, was there any concern there?
There's always risk. There's always calculation, but fortune favors the bold. So I think it all came down to our trust in our customers. They had been asking for sort of a large twin. They'd been asking for deltas. We saw that for the MiG-29 announcement, and even during and after the MiG-29 announcement, we had people saying, "Wow, I would really like a delta, really like a XXX." And so we believed them. I mean, we trusted. Okay, if they want both, then we've got both ready.
Right.
Let's give them both.
Right.
Part of the calculus is obviously wondering, okay, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, we really had the bandwidth to produce, support, and really just produce, release, and support 1 or 2 aircraft a year. Because as we know, it's not just making them; you have to do everything else. And
sure,
at the time, as we went from 2 a year to 3 a year, and very quickly we did 14 in a year in 2015 and 16 of time frame. There was a concern of there's so many different categories, and where is the balance between having them far enough apart, like a single 64 and a twin 80, to where they're not going to step on each other. But at the same time, there are so many categories, so many subcategories in any region, whether it be EDFs or Warbirds or Balsa, what have you. We didn't want to wait. If there are 14 categories and we do 2 categories a year, it's 7 years before the next twin comes out. It's just too long. And so
Right, right, and that all makes sense. Um,
They say they want it, we're going to give it to them.
right, right. So, I'll go ahead and get to one of the first questions, and you probably know the name Dennis Farley. You may have never met the man, but you've probably seen the name around before. He's a big Warbird fan, and he's asking, you know, when the ultimate question: can we expect to see another Flightline Warbird sometime in the future?
Why not?
I know the answer is going to be why not. Like everything is coming.
Everything's coming. That'll be on my tombstone. When I'm EOL, it'll say everything's coming. But no,
Right.
we've got Flightline birds in the pipeline, guys. We've done, as James had mentioned in Hobby Squawk last week, last year after the Corsair, we had sort of those larger birds. Knowing that the OV10 was coming this year, we nestled two smaller birds in between the Corsair of say a year and a half ago and of the OV10 of a few months ago. So we had both the Dora and the Mustang. Now, to what we found, and this is okay, it's just data. We found that the people who are on forums, the people who are on YouTube, that level, so that echelon of hobbyists, they're more interested in the bigger, the fancier, the more, big release type, the fanfare premiere releases, which is okay. But by the math, we've released just as many Flightline Warbirds and propeller aircraft with our Skinetic line in the past 18 months as we have jets. So it's technically still even. It just doesn't feel like it is, because if you've been sitting waiting for a single 1.6 or 1.8 meter Warbird, you've been waiting since the Corsair. That goes to what I said earlier, where if you have so many different subcategories, and you can't do 14 categories in 12 months, but if you did 14 categories every 24 months, that's still a 2-year interval in between the Corsair and the but anyway, that's the shortest answer I can say. Is last year was for the $100 guys, and the big Warbird guys will get yours soon
Right.
enough.
Right, right. It sounds like 2020, now that we got all these people that are wanting to spend big cash because they're sitting at home all the time, let's release all the big money planes.
Right. That comes to part of the strategy too, right? Is you want to alternate small, big, cost-effective, beginner-friendly, advanced, Delta, Twin, Sport, it's not rocket science, but we do want to try and spread it out a little bit. And so people who are waiting for a 4-engine bomber, those tend to be about a 4-engine airplane, I should say, not necessarily a bomber. They're waiting on a 2.5-year interval or so.
Right.
So
Right. And another thing that I know a lot of folks have been asking for was, another Eurofighter. When the EPS Eurofighter got discontinued, that was, I don't know how well it was selling. I mean, obviously we don't have access to those metrics, but it was popular enough that there was some commotion when that airplane was discontinued. And I think
yeah,
what's nice about the Gripen is that scratches that itch really nicely for those guys that were looking for a Eurofighter. And it's like, here you go. Here's another awesome Delta with canards, and it's EPO, and it's big. It's awesome. What do you think? And it seems like it's
so flies better than we could get the Eurofighter ever flying.
awesome.
So you're right. I mean, that goes back to we had a version 1 Euro, then we had a version 2. We could have made a version 3, but it's like it's the competing interests of people want to see new, and they also want to see sort of revisions of the familiar. And I think the Gripen, like you said, it toes that line. It's as big as the Eurofighter. It's certainly longer than it, but it flies better, more efficient, more potential. More modern, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Will we bring back the Typhoon eventually? It's not out of the realm of possibility. But you bring up a good point as far as cancellations. I think we do our best to, once we produce an aircraft, we don't discontinue it a year or two in. We can't afford to. You keep that aircraft in circulation as long as people want it, and as long as you can sustain the support around it. But that being said, you mentioned commotion. We noticed a similar commotion when the B-17 was discontinued, and when the Eurofighter was discontinued. I can name probably 5 aircraft over the past 8 years that we've discontinued among the 40 that we've brought in. And each time there are people who say, "Oh, but I wanted it," to which we say, "Oh, no one bought it for 6 months."
Then why
So,
weren't you buying it?
so if you want something and it's on the website, this goes for anyone. I can't guarantee what'll be there tomorrow.
Right.
I can guarantee spare parts will be there, but airplanes, we can't bring in 10 models in 18 months and not sort of look to what we need to make space.
Yeah, of course. So, I didn't want to, segue into this yet, but one of the things that you mentioned was we have to keep making them because it wouldn't make good financial sense. And it kind of brings me to another subject that I wanted to brush on, and we'll hit on this in more detail here in a little bit. But a lot of that I know comes from the price of the molds and being able to get a good ROI on the mold creation process, and making it worthwhile to make the plane at all. If we're only going to make it for a year, we'd have to get a really cheap mold, and it's just not going to hold up over time. So, does that kind of drive how long you keep a plane in circulation as well? Like if you haven't seen that ROI yet, is it, is it worth the gamble to keep it in circulation even if it's not selling well, but it's selling enough, that we're going to eventually see that ROI in say 2 years. So let's keep it going for another 2 years.
Yeah, that's where it comes down to just listening to the customer family, right? If they say, "We like it, I don't have space, the wife is angry, I'll get it next summer," we'll keep an aircraft around. And thankfully, we don't really have that problem a lot because I think we've built a portfolio that's intuitive and it has something for everyone.
It really does. I mean, and I do want to touch on that. So, Motion RC doesn't have, the history of some of the other manufacturers out there. And I mean, you guys kind of hit the market by storm about 10 years ago. And while your product selection back then wasn't nearly as much as it is now, in that short time frame, especially when we're talking about, who your competition is, you guys have really kind of set the standard, not only in EDF jets, but like those big warbirds. I mean, the definitive Spitfire, the definitive Corsair, and your Warbird line is, or your jet line, your military jets in particular, have kind of set the standard that everybody else has to meet, and it's created an environment where the entire hobby has benefited from you guys kicking so much ass.
I appreciate that. We try and do our part. We're nowhere near perfect, but yeah, I would hope that people see that we do our honest best. I can sleep because I believe people see that in us.
Right.
And that's enough. I mean, I'm not expecting us to be perfect. I don't think anyone else is or should. And but yeah, we do our honest best. There are a lot of people like us. The nice thing about my role in the industry and sort of in the hobby, with seeing what I can see in the area I'm blessed to be in, is I get to see just how similar we all are. I've traveled the world. I've flown in many countries and many languages, and everything from little micros to big old turbines and everything in between. And you begin to realize just how similar We all are. And if you can build a notion off of that commonality, then there's always that thread that people can come back to, which for us is simply, we like what we do.
Right.
If you like what we do, if you like crashing and building and trying to make something fly and sharing it with your buddies, that in a nutshell is what we do. And I think that resonates with a lot of people. So it's worked out.
Oh, and I think that certainly for the people that watch this show and, and some of the other live YouTube streams and certainly the people that are engaged in Hobby Squawk, I think that you guys have certainly found, the folks that like to crash.
Yeah. Well, good, because they're just like me. I mean, if you're not crashing, you're not flying hard enough.
Right.
That's what I think.
Yep. So, with that in mind, where you guys have, I mean, just your releases in the Jet and Warbird, genres, if you will, categories, because they've been so awesome. Does it make it difficult to, I know that you guys have the Skynetic line now where you're kind of looking at kind of general aviation and commercial aviation in the Skynetic line, but, does the success with military jets and warbirds make it difficult to, to look in some of those other areas, like why would we go to a general aviation plane when we can sell another big military jet and make a mint off of it? Or we can do this and maybe sell 1,000
fair question.
units.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, on the one hand, the shortest answer is, well, why can't we do both? And so we endeavor to do both. That's what Skynetic is we can pursue GA at a lower price point for introductory pilots and do our due diligence and sort of keep our part of the responsibility as hobbyists to proliferate the hobby. And, noobs can't be flying Tomcats. So that's what sort of Skynetic is, at the same time that we continue to push on multiple fronts. Well, yeah, they can once. While we pursue Flightline within its $100 Warbirds all the way up to the $400 ones, while we pursue at the same time the foam electric jet front with little $100 64s up to $650 Fulcrums, while we push on balsa to as our love letter to kit builders and to gas guys, which again, many of us at Motion RC were and still are. So the shortest answer is, why can't we do all of it? I think what you're asking is where we can't, where we have to make a decision. Okay, which one? We have multiple. We have a GA bird. We have a big warbird. We have a jet. They're all in the pipeline. Which one do we announce first? That's again where we read the tea leaves, we listen to the people, and we make the call as to which one we think people want,
right,
at that moment.
Yeah, and I know that there's a whole chat of people here, that have your attention. I don't see there are a lot of people asking questions. So, I mean, if you guys have a question for Alpha, put it in the chat, because we only have a limited time. But since my voice is the one in your ear, I'm going to put out, and I've put it on Hobby Squawk, I would love to see a Diamond DA42. Is that something you guys have looked at in the past?
Actually, we have. So there are a lot of GA aircraft that we've observed people want, and we've sort of So yeah, the AL-37 is probably the best example of moving into the GA space, general aviation space, and just try and see what's there and is there interest there. It turns out there's a lot of interest, and so that makes us more confident as far as, okay, so the other ones that we've got, they'll probably find a good following. Yeah, specifically, can I say we're making one right now? I don't know. Probably not.
And that's fair. I think that we've been listening to you on the motion streams and as a guest on some other folks' show now that we all know what our canned response answer is going to be when we ask about specific airplanes.
Yeah.
But but you never know, man. I mean, it's always
You
worth
never
the
know.
nugget, you know.
You never know. And I've left a lot of, gosh, I've left a lot of Easter eggs. Every new aircraft, if you look in hindsight, you realize, oh shoot, he was absolutely talking about that airplane. But let me get to a couple of questions because I see them here. So Hal's asking about a B-58 Hustler. There's a great thread in Hobby Squawk, actually two threads, Hal, where we talk about the B-58 and limitations and precedent setting as far as what Kenny has already done for his four-banger Het 6904 B-58 Hustler setup. So I would encourage you to check there. The short answer is that's a lot. It's a lot of aircraft for. I need to know I can get a Ferrari's worth of sort of investment behind. Viking, yeah, Viking, Joseph Youngblood. That would be cool. We are Navy guys. The P-40N and the Zero. See, anyone who knows me knows I prefer Zeros. They fly excellently. The FMS Zero is a great flyer, even given its age. So made a dud, and so I'm afraid I'm part of the. I'm on the outside of the Venn diagram on as far as market demand. A P-40, obviously, a lot of people would like that, and I'm surprised there isn't a big one already. Tony's asking about 12S single EDF jets. So I'm seeing a trend here. People want bigger, bigger, bigger.
Right.
We're exploring bigger. First it was 1.4 meter single engine, then it was 1.5, then it's 1.6. Now we're back to the 1750s of yesteryear. First it's 6S. 80 millimeters was quote unquote big in like the 90s. Now we're being asked, you're not the only one, by the way, asking us about single 120s. I mean, that's 12S setups. I guess the question for the group is, or something to ponder, the majority or the current minority, the current majority, or the future majority. If you think there's something you can do individually to make the call for a 1700 millimeter P-40, to make that group part of the future majority, that increases the likelihood we're going to do it. Because I'll tell you candidly, right now, that's the current minority. It's too small. This always comes back down to if you're spending six figures just to get the airplane ready to sell, you have to know that there's more than 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people. There has to be more than that to make it a bet we can take. So that's my encouragement to everyone listening. If you think you're the only one, or if you think, well, there's 20 of us, then go find another 800 and let us know because we'll be the first ones to do something about it.
Right. Right, right. And I don't know if that's a subject that we can broach here, but I know that again, this is something that I want to hit on, here in about 15 minutes, on the kind of the trailing in, but that kind of leads into a conversation that we've had recently on your Twitch stream about possibly doing crowdfunding campaigns to kind of gauge how well the market would respond to something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love to see a mobilized base call out for a specific model. It certainly makes our job easier because we don't need to peer into the Palantir crystal ball. We can say, oh, there's X amount of people there. They want this. They crowdfunded to get us off the ground or whatever. It's interesting. It's an intriguing concept. So again, for those not privy to those live streams that I've been doing on Alpha Makes, just, I don't know. I can't. We can't do it all for the hobbyist. Our role is to listen. In absence of data, we'll make the call, but I would always prefer to make the call based on what I've been told, based on what the
Sure.
community has said. We want this, and I think that's rare. I don't think that's a common opportunity the average hobbyist has. So, but we offer it, and we mean it. So,
Well, I don't think that the common hobbyist really has the opportunity to get in the ear of a company like Motion RC, where you guys you give us every opportunity to talk to you. You're running Hobby Squawk. You've got the live streams on Fridays. You're doing your stream on Twitch now, which we'll get into here in a little bit. I mean, the access that the general public has to get in the ear of some decision making people, not just like, you know, Lobby customer service rep. I mean, we're talking to one of the chief designers of the company, and we can get right in your ear and talk to you about some things that we would never hear from from other companies, distributors, manufacturers in this industry. And I have to be speaking for a ton of people when I say that how much we really appreciate that.
yeah, thanks. I mean, it all comes back down to, I think, what the user. Do what we love, do something that feels good. There's a great question that Robert Ortlip asked in chat. He asks, do we think competition is a good thing, that we as in, the industry can build off of each other to make products better? I mean, absolutely. There is no industry in the world, I think, that does not benefit from competition, provided that competition is fair, safe, transparent, and isn't, we're not. Yeah, there are a lot of ways that competition can go sideways, in terms of corporate espionage and things that you hear in the wider world. In this hobby, I mean, it's a small enough group. My platform is life is short. Like, no need to make enemies. We're all friends here. We're all trying to do the same thing. So I absolutely think that competition makes us better, and I would hope it would make other people better. And anything that benefits myself as a hobbyist at the end of the day is, I'm in full support. We were talking actually about the Flex Hun, the F100, which I think a couple of guys on Squawk had mentioned they took delivery of. And I was one of the first to say, great. I think it's fantastic. They have a great crew there. There's no reason to think it won't be a successful airplane. And there's certainly no reason to hope that it isn't successful.
Right.
We all need each other far more than we need to be better than each other. I think that's the key.
Right, and that's kind of what I was suggesting earlier when I said that ever since you guys really started setting the standard of what we could really do with a foam military jet, it has caused everyone around you to step their game up. So not only is competition good, but it makes the hobby better for everyone as a result of it. So I'm sure that there are other manufacturers out there that are doing things that are causing you guys to step your game up. So we win as hobbyists when there's competition.
Yeah, we really do. Competition, I think that's an easy word for innovation. What I,
Right.
as a hobbyist, what I want innovation. Do I want my iPhone to be the exact same thing as it was as the first one 6 years ago? No. I want better screens. I want other things. I want features that come at a better price, and all of that, whether it's motivated by competition with Samsung or Google, or whether it's just innate innovation designed in a vacuum somewhere at Apple's Cupertino's location. I don't know, and I don't care. I'm looking for innovation.
Right.
Innovation that makes my airplane safer or more convenient to fly or more easy to fly or more convenient to fix or more widely supported with parts. Like those types of things are what I'm looking for. It just so happens that competition is one of those levers of influence that can make innovation happen more. At the same time, I do need to say, because people often ask, do we buy everything that other people make and fly everything? And the answer is, if we did, it's for enjoyment, because I like to fly everything. It's not for competitive research. It's I don't think, again, I don't think any of this is really rocket science. So there are a few things to really glean. Pushing the envelope without losing your shorts.
Right. Right. Um, so, I don't want to. I mean, I know that we could sit here and talk forever about airplanes, but I know that our time is limited. So I wanted to take some time to kind of segue into, like this past, not even year, really, it's only been like, say, the past 6 months. There's been a lot of new product lines that are being introduced by Motion, that are really compelling. One of those being, and I think the first big one that was kind of a departure from the standard, we sell airplanes. Um, you guys started picking up the Hinglong tanks, which have
Yeah,
proven to be awesome.
I
And
love those
then
things.
Right, right. I mean, it's like airsoft with RC. That's awesome.
Right? Yeah, you bring up a good point. I mean, when I say I'm a hobbyist, I don't mean I'm just a pilot. I like anything that moves. We all
Right.
do at Motion RC. So it may be. I noticed, I glanced briefly earlier. Someone had mentioned a comment that they echoed the same sentiment, that they like that we're sort of moving into other spaces, and we're glad to see that type of feedback. We would hope that our customer family now would again trust us, that we're going to grow in ways that will support other areas of the global RC hobby, be it tanks, be it Bancroft warships, which are arriving in a week or two,
Awesome.
be it balsa or all these other types of things. It's just because we like it, and we're not going to let anyone tell us we can't make what we like.
Right.
We truly believe, and here's the kicker: we believe that we're not alone. We're not the only guys who want to have a boat and then a tank on a lander, and then there's a warbird flying over it, and there's you've got your drone with your FPV camera doing a chase sequence. I mean, all of that, I say yes to all. And
Right.
so that's really reflective in what we're doing now, just with tanks and trucks and everything. It's
Right.
why wouldn't we?
And you guys totally allow for us to get into some final countdown scenarios where we've got like World War II warbirds, and here comes the
Yeah.
Tomcat, to take them all out.
Yeah, that is that's the goal, and that is our final countdown. We just you've cracked the secret, Dave.
Yes, yes.
Our only goal is to get to final countdown.
And I just think it's awesome, the amount of variety that you guys are able to put out there. I mean, there's so many different, itches get scratched by the products that you guys have. And I mean, and it's not just the ships. The Bancroft boats look amazing. I mean, they have amazing price tags to go with them, but they're amazing models. The amount of intricacy and level of detail is just amazing on those things. You touched
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
the Hinglong tanks. We've also got the construction vehicles. I'm not sure if those have started shipping yet. And
Yeah, not far.
here in the very recent past, in the past maybe month or so, now we've got like the Corrali line of bashers, and four-wheel
Yeah.
drive off-road vehicles, which look great. I personally had never heard of Co-Rally before, but those vehicles look really nice. And you
Yeah.
know, and you guys also brought in two of the most storied, historied companies in RC, with
Yeah.
Tamiya and Kyosho. I mean, those are two companies with a rich, rich history in this hobby. So the fact that you guys were able to bring them on board is pretty amazing in and of itself. Um, where do you guys see those relationships with some of these really kind of pioneers of the RC surface world? How do you guys plan to foster those relationships moving into the future? And is there any kind of exclusive things that you're working on with them, which kind of brought together, say Kyosho or Tamiya with Motion RC?
I mean, if we were to zoom way out, everyone, me myself, I'm nobody. I'm nothing. I'm a mouthpiece for the user, for the customer, for the hobbyist, to the factory. I do that very well. I do that better than anyone I know. But that's really all that I do. So the answer to your question, as far as what does the the recently announced partnerships with these storied brands mean for our future? The answer is, well, that depends what the customer wants us to do with that relationship. Do they want us to bring in more Tamiya tanks? Well, we've got a bunch now. We can do more. Does that mean they want us to develop something special with Kyosho's Ready Set line, or a similar product from Corelli or something else? Um, we could do that too. We have our own designs again, our own designs as in our own ideas, but all of that is secondary to what what the customer says they want from us now. Our job is to, again, be the mouthpiece, line up the factories, knock them down, and then tell them, stand by. We're going to tell you what our customers want to see.
Right.
That's currently the phase we're in with a lot of these new relationships. We brought in Tamiya. I love Tamiya paint.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah, it's the best.
from their paint to their, I've had their tank, their Beetle, going back 35 years. We've played around with Tamiya, and having them now that we can say that we sell them, we represent them, is a great blessing. But the future is, imagine the future being as diverse and as sort of hands-on, I'll call it, as it is with Freewing. Imagine
Right.
that.
And that'd be amazing. And like you, I've been in this hobby for 30 plus years now. And those were some of my first memories in RC, were things like the Tamiya Hornet and the Grasshopper and the Blackfoot and the Midnight Pumpkin and the Cloudbuster. I mean, these were awesome models. And it's cool, number one, that you guys are carrying them, but number two, that they still sell those models. So now I can get some of that
Yeah, they do.
stuff, kind of to reminisce on the past. And I'll tell you, it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever played a lot of video games or whatever, but a lot of people are like, oh man, I wish this was like it was before. Man, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
Don't ask
Hey,
for
you really
that.
don't.
um,
You don't want 8-bit anymore. This is a
right, right,
64-bit world.
and I recently
Yeah.
put together a Tamiya kit, and I mean it took a couple of days, and I'm like, man, I know why I hated them. But I loved them too. It was I mean, the hobby was so much more fulfilling back then for me. To put together a kit, and there's something to be said for that, and that's what I love about those things, is that they haven't strayed from their ways at all. When you buy a Tamiya kit today, it's a bunch of parts on a parts tree, and you got to
Yeah.
put it together. Everything is on parts trees.
Well, that's what's exciting for us is getting back to building. I mean, I love building stuff.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I can't read the comments right now, but I'm not sure if there are any questions or anything. But I would wager that a lot of us started in this hobby by building stuff. Wouldn't it be neat if we have access to build those things again? I
I
don't see a
love the
downside.
idea of it. And I'd say of all of the kind of the projects that I've done here in the probably in the last 6 months to a year, building out that Tamiya car was probably one of the most fulfilling because you get this sense of accomplishment when you're done. Like, I just built this from a
Yeah.
box of parts, and it's awesome.
Right. And it's moving.
Oh yeah,
So
and
the
the
RTR world certainly has its place. Being able to pull something out of a box and go play with it, that's great. I mean, Wes did that series. Y'all did that series over the other weekend with cars. I mean, that's fun stuff. And ARTRs is a little bit. You got to put a little bit of work into it, and that's great too. And then just full bore kits. We see that stratification, and to us, it's yes to all. There are people who love all those different types of things. Sometimes I want to build a kit, and when I take a break from the kit, I'm going to open an RTR and just go drive that thing around because I don't have the time.
right, yeah, just
We
throw a
just want to
battery in and
be,
have fun.
yeah, we just want to be if people think of us as a source, as a resource for those products, and more importantly, as a resource for what can come to be in the future, then I think we're doing our jobs well.
So
That's inclusive of problems, by the way. Speaking of brands that have been around for decades, there's a lot of old stuff that hasn't been changed, not necessarily because it's classic and doesn't need to be, but because sucks. You
right,
guys should retool it. We'd like to be that mouthpiece now to say, hey, that thing you've made for 30 years, you may not know this, but people have been modifying that mount for 30 years.
right,
How about we make a V2 motor mount, move it over a couple
right.
hundredths of an inch,
Like, literally
and
nobody uses the stock differential. Nobody.
yeah, that's a good plan. There are great examples, many just like that. So, we're not promising we can change the world overnight, but we hope people are excited as we are excited that we have the ears of the people who can really make change happen. So, sounds like a political ploy, but it's true.
Right.
Are there any questions from the group,
There is, and
Dave, that you see in chat?
this one's interesting. It's from Hal Roofner. He was asking, "Do you have an engineering background?" And I don't know the answer to this, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say yes.
I'd hope it's clear by now that I do. Yes, I do, Hal. I've been told I speak like that. I've been told sort of my mannerisms are of a engineer. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I build things and decided to take it to the next level. And our hope again is that I don't do the video thing. You're far more handsome than I am, so I don't want it to be about me. It's about the product. We want people to look at it and see that is a well-engineered, well-designed, thoughtful, coherent, really intuitive product that is clearly the product of people, of a team that really knows what they're doing. And that's sort of our specialty, I think, is putting engineering into and an aerodynamicist mindset into what has traditionally been thought of as a toy. To me, these aren't toys. We're all just giants. We're too big. That's a real aircraft. We just need to scale ourselves down by 1/10.
Yeah, don't get the crowd worked too much on midgets. They'll go crazy over that topic. So
yeah.
So
good question now.
No, and I can certainly appreciate where you're coming from because, if it's not evident by some of the videos I do, I also have an engineering background. Um,
Yeah, it is.
so thanks, man. I
It
appreciate it.
absolutely is. When I watch your Spectrum tutorials, I'm like, he see things from that point of view. I think is probably the best way to put it. It's not a
Right.
superior one. It's just a different one.
It's
You
just
know,
a
when I
different
look at an
mindset.
airplane, you see it as an exploded diagram, right? You
Right.
see the signals moving through the schematic. Um, and you see where the errors are. So I really do like your instructional set of videos, which is like why I told you jump on Squawk and let people know, because the information should be shared.
And I listened. I've jumped on there, and my post count on Hobby Squawk has exploded over the last week. I went from having one
Yeah,
to like 30.
and yeah, and your read count has exploded as well. I watch all these. I can see the numbers, all the guests, all the unlogged in people, camping those threads, and I'm sure they're taking notes, and they're
Oh, you can see
that's
people looking at the
fulfilling.
threads that I
It's
make. That's
they
that's
do.
fun. That's fun.
They do.
So that's cool. I
Um,
mean, that's good info. I should hit you up on that every now and then and be like, "Are people still looking at my stuff?"
yeah, people are looking at your stuff. Yeah, I
That's
think that's
cool.
an interesting way people interface with the hobby these days is you can choose to engage or not. The information's there for free, right? I would hope everyone listening to this will press the like button for Dave. You don't have to. It's free information. You can come and go as you please. And the same it is with the forum. People can read and never comment. We find that certainly to be the case, where readership is typically exponentially higher than post counts. But again, that's okay because we're not chasing post counts. I like knowing that people saw the information you put out there. They've taken their notes. Somewhere in the world, someone did not pull their hair out this weekend because of what you posted, and that's enough.
Right.
That's a job well done.
Yeah, and I've got a lot more to share, and I there are other forums out there. I will say that I enjoy. I haven't really been much for RC forums because there's at least one very large one that every time I get on a thread, it always puts a bad taste in my mouth for forums. And I'm like, oh God, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna even worry about those. But what I've noticed about the community in Hobby Squawk is they're a lot they're better people in there.
I wouldn't say that I'm in there. I'm a pretty terrible person, but
Yeah,
no, I
that's
think I
true. I
think
mean, you're
I
the
get what
exception.
I'm yeah, I think again going back to what I said earlier, we're we're just trying to do our part. We're not out to get anybody. We hope no one's out to get us. It's we're not curing cancer. We're trying to have fun.
Right.
And whether it be in a forum or whether it be on a field or whether it be in a board meeting, I mean, there's always going to be resistance. There will always be competing opinions, as there should be.
Sure.
Yeah, we
And
take all that and just you sum out the day. It ends up being positive, and you move forward.
right.
So,
Yeah, so I know
um,
that we're kind of running short on time, so I don't want to cut you off about the hobby squawk thing, but it kind of leads me into the those final moments of our discussion where I wanted to kind of open the floor up to you and let you brag a little bit about some of the projects that you've been working on. And some of the avenues that the community is able to really tune into what you're doing. Um, Specifically, we can engage with you on Hobby Squawk at any time, and I think a lot of folks know that. But I don't think folks know how much you're sharing on like Instagram, and I really don't think that a lot of people know what you're doing on Twitch. Because if they did, you'd have a huge audience compared to what you have
yeah.
now.
So, yeah, I've got about 15 minutes, so we got a bit of time here.
Yeah. So we're right
As
on
far as
track.
bragging, as far as your as bragging, I mean, uh, I have nothing to brag about. I mean, the stuff speaks for itself. What we've endeavored to do over the past, say, month and a half is in recognition of the pandemic, a lot of people sort of sitting down, and also more widely just because, again, we're RC nuts and we like to talk about RC every minute we're awake.
Yep.
I've now opened up about 3 months ago, I opened up an Instagram. That seems to be going pretty well. And then I also opened up about a month ago a Twitch live stream and a Discord chat. For those not familiar, Twitch is what the kids use to play video games and talk to each other. So, sort of way
Right.
too old for that. But what we use Twitch for, and it's twitch.tv/alpha makes like alpha makes a plane, alpha makes a boat, and alpha makes is I'm live sharing my screen. So people will jump in, and for two times a week on Tuesdays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern for about an hour, 1 to 4 hours, depending. I live share my screen, and we go through deep dives of aircraft. For example, last Friday we did a deep dive of the Gripen, and
Right. Hours
we
after
went
the
through
release of the plane.
yeah, hours after the release of the plane, and people were asking all these questions. Well, guess what? You get to look at my screen as I live fly through 3D CAD cutaways of the Gripen. People say, "Can I see this part?" Well, here it is. Well,
Right.
where are the canard servos? They're invisible. Here they are. They're inside. This is where they're at. So it's fun because we can actually dive into the aircraft. The previous week we did the Corsair, the F4, and then we use those CAD backdrops as then a backdrop for a wider discussion about EDF design. So we did a great couple of hours 2 weeks ago, a two-part series that used the F4, the Freewing 90mm F4, as a basis to talk about what is ideal ducting design. What considerations do we take into account when optimizing EDF? And if you have questions of why didn't you do twin 70 instead of a single 90, well, here's why. And look into the airplane and you see why is the Gripen's nose gear where it is? Well, because the scale location, there's a battery there. And you kind of need a
Right.
battery to fly. So we needed to move the nose gear. That's why. And here
Right.
you can see it. So if people are interested in sort of seeing that live, again, you just go to Twitch, search for Alpha Mexa, you'll find me. And in
Sure.
addition to the Twitch, a couple of the guys, younger and wiser in these things than I am, recommended that we go to Discord. So Discord is essentially it's live conference call. All this stuff is free, by the way, guys. It takes you a minute to create an account, and it basically creates an online free server where we can all converse. So I think on Friday we had about 20 people sitting around talking from Australia. I think M Shag's from Australia. We have people in China, obviously. James is in East Coast. We had RC Forever, who I believe is in Spain, and everyone's just at weird hours of the evening and morning.
Yeah.
We're all there sitting talking about airplanes.
It's
So
certainly it's 5 o'clock somewhere type of crowd.
yeah, but the idea in all this, guys, is that I mean, where else can you listen to someone who's developed these aircraft, these products, while looking at a screen, looking at your computer screen or your phone screen, and watching live fly-throughs? You can say live. You can say, well, can you show me what's the measurement for the drogue chute on the MiG-29? Because I want to start 3DP designing something. Okay, here it is. You see this? This is the dimension. And by the way, before you start designing, let me zoom in a little bit, Steve, and let me take you inside the foam, and you'll see that there's a wall here of foam that is 28 millimeters from this wall. So you should plan ahead. Like that level of, I would call it support or transparency, is
Uh,
something that we're trying out. And so far, people seem to be liking it, but there's
yeah.
only
Yeah.
there's like 20 to 30 people.
And
So
and I think especially probably like on the Friday night one. Um, I mean, there's no reason we shouldn't have 80, 100 people in there. I mean, that's way better than the crap on TV. So I'll watch that
I
all
sure hope
day
so.
because probably because I'm an engineer and I look at these drawings and I tinker around with Fusion 360. The irony that I've never used Tinkercad for my tinkering because it's like toyish, but Fusion 360 is awesome, and I use it all the time. And I've learned every time I watch you mess around with these things, I see something. Like maybe it's just the way that you have two different shapes lofted together, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go try that. It gets my creative juices flowing from a design perspective as well, and I think that that's also good for the hobby. For us to sit around and try some of this stuff, because you find out real quick that you suck at it, and you get a real good appreciation for the people that are good at it.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I try to learn something every day, and a lot of that means putting yourself in a place where you don't know what's going on, and that's a good place.
Right.
Like Bill Gates had sort of reported as being saying, you want to be the dumbest guy in the room. So, I try and put myself. I'm not a dumb guy, but I like being in the place where I'm the dumbest guy in the room, because that means I'm going to learn something that day. And
Right.
the hope is for stuff like this. What little skill I do have, I would like to share it with people. And if it opens up a little bit more an avenue for someone like you to create, for a new designer to sort of gain the confidence to try something, whatever the case may be, that's again, there's no downside to that. I'm all about that. It also happens to be free, so
Right.
for now at least,
Absolutely. Well,
I'm gonna go
Fusion
behind a paywall like you.
360. Yeah, I know, right? Like it costs $1.99. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you gotta give them something special though, Alpha. Like you gotta give them like different colored, HAL eyes. Like when people pay the $1.99 to me, they get like UMX dog emojis, which are awesome.
Gosh, yeah, you'll need to teach me, Dave, because
Yeah,
I'm that's over my head.
I'll
But
let you borrow my UMX dog.
yeah, yeah. I think the point in all of it is that it's about engagement. Again, guys, if you're asking questions, Dave's gonna feed them to me. I can't read them because I'm on the move right now. But what we've been saying for the past 10 minutes, it all comes down to engagement. We just in the past hour, we just want to engage with people.
Right.
We just want to play, whatever it is. We just want to play. We just
So,
want to engage with people.
you
That's
know,
fun.
the funny part is that here over the last 10 minutes, there's not so much people asking questions as people are sharing the links to your Discord server. They're sharing the links for your Twitch stream. Um, and hopefully a lot of the guys that are in here right now, listening and tuning in, will jump on into the Discord and into the Twitch stream with Alpha on Friday nights and Tuesday nights,
Yeah.
because if anything, even if you gain nothing from the technical information, the kind of conversation that we're having right now, which by the way, Victor said the sound is way better on Discord too. For those of you guys that noticed like how clear Alpha was at the beginning, because there were some comments made like Alpha sounds great. We're using Discord right now to stream, Alpha into this stream from halfway across the world. So yes, the audio quality from Discord is great, and we're not just watching him stream something and talk to us, kind of like these live streams are, because it's in Discord. We can actually talk to him just like Alpha
Yeah,
and I
it's
are talking
interactive.
right now. Exactly.
Yeah, it's interactive, and that's what's the most fun. That's why we sort of went that way. We noticed that in the live show that James does every Friday, which I really love, we can rely on comments, and we typically have an agenda, a prepared series of information that we want to share. The live streams that I'm doing are to support that effort by giving you a different, this is live interact. Can you show me this? Can you show me that? Can you twist it around? Can you show me the wireframe? Can I see where the landing gear is connected to the spar? Like those types of things. And I think visually it helps me as a learner to learn, and certainly as an instructor, easier to convey information. When we're talking about, well, the ducting, how do you transition from two intakes to a single outlet? Well,
Right, right,
ducting, and how do you keep FSA constant, and what does that look like? Unless you had a razor blade and you're going to slice up one of my babies, 1 millimeter thick, and then look at them, you're not going to see the views that we can portray live with,
right,
again, with three-dimensional animated fly-throughs. So when we tell people this shape, this rectangular intake needs to transition to an ovular shape, then it needs to merge into a circular one, it's fun to sort of show that. So I will
right.
say that the next live stream is actually in 24 hours from right
Yeah,
now.
that's tomorrow. Yep.
It's 9 p.m. Eastern Tuesdays.
Awesome.
So and we won't be doing it for much longer. If candidly, if it sort of stays at 20 or 30 people, I'll probably step that down to like once a month or something. Opportunity is not a lengthy visitor, and
Right. Well, that
I
was
need
one of
to
the
I need
reasons
to
that
make sure that it's 20 hours a month well spent.
right. That was one of the reasons that I'm glad that I was able to get you in here tonight because I want to spread the word. I want to see you keep doing that because, like I said earlier, I mean, it gives us as the hobbyist access to, I mean, not really secret info, but insight to stuff that we're not going to get anywhere else.
Well,
So
just ask yourself, for anyone listening, for any RC product, for any product period that you own,
in the history of
RC or
ever.
otherwise, in the history of everything you've ever bought, have you ever sat there live with the person who made that thing as
Right.
he or she showed you the inside of that thing? The answer is no. You've never
Right.
done that. But that's something that we're offering just because we can, and we thought it was kind of fun to do. And you're right. I mean, obviously, my 3D CADs by that time are sanitized, so people are screenshotting things. They're not going to see, specific things we've done to the inside of the airplane, but all the rest of it is there for people to see. And it's us trying to engage people, as I said, and to sort of be transparent and show there isn't a reason why this shouldn't be a common thing. I don't think.
Right.
Um,
And I think
you
that
know,
level of access is awesome. And, like Alpha was saying, guys, I mean, if the community doesn't get involved, there's no incentive to keep doing it. So for my sanity, go and watch Alpha's Twitch streams because I need this in my life.
That's funny. We can put you on a drip, Dave, and it'll just be I'll stream to you.
Thanks, man.
The alternative is obviously there's a balance, right? At a certain point, if it is 20 hours a month, I would guess that there's a fair amount of people who would prefer I spend that time either making something else new that they can buy later or recharging. But in either event, if it's something that we think people would want to see, we're open to it. I love what 2020 has done for content creators. Mary
Right.
Boozer, of course, Ryan, yourself. There's so many people who've now sort of expanded and taken this hobby, visually global, we could call it. Even more so than years past. Every year it's been growing since YouTube has become a stable platform and just people have had access to this kind of information. I think that's fueling the renaissance for the hobby in general. And so we celebrate everyone who's doing those kinds of things. I applaud people who've really got it worked out how to engage an audience and how to really inspire an audience to go out and enjoy the hobby. Flight Test has done a great job in doing that, right? In finding people a lot younger than you and I to keep this hobby going. So I think that's the value of media, and we're trying to be better at doing all that sort of stuff. Or at least I am. I'm trying to catch up to what the rest of y'all have been doing.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. You'll pass us all here shortly. Yeah. So, James, if you're out there with that Gripen tomorrow, I might be out
He
there.
is. Yeah, he'll be out there with the Gripen tomorrow, and he'll have the MiG there as well. So that's right, you're in the area. So why don't you show up and give it a gander?
Oh,
He's got
I'll
a
give it a
second one, a
gander.
second Gripen arriving on Thursday.
Oh, that's beautiful. So what you're saying is, if I wreck this one, it's all right. I'm
That's
just kidding,
exactly what
dude.
I'm
I'm
saying.
not.
Yeah, there's no pressure. You can go ahead and go kill this one.
Hey, just a quick question. When there's something coming out that is so fantastically different, like the Gripen, as far as control surfaces and stuff like that. At least to
Mhm.
me, when I look at the way that the control surfaces articulate on the Gripen, more specifically the canards, they've got an
The canards.
extreme.
Hmm.
Yeah, they've got an extreme amount of control throw, and it looks like they articulate in a similar way that you would see from a like the a delta control surface, only on the front of the plane. uh, when you send this stuff to James, so like the MiG-29, the Gripen, planes that he may not have a point of reference to go on, like, oh, I
Yeah,
think that
I
it
am
should
the
be
point
set
of
up
reference.
like this. Yeah, do you send him a bunch of specs like the control throws should be
Yeah,
this, and your radio should be set up with these
yeah.
mixes,
Well,
and
he's got you bring up a great observation. The James is uh there is no other canarded delta on in the industry right now. There is no other foam electric canard delta
oh right.
one. So tomorrow, he, like many of probably, have never flown a Canard Delta. So to answer your question, absolutely. That's where I, as the point of reference, come in, where we dump all the test data from our team. That takes the form of the manual, which obviously is the manual is what going to see. So it better be right. He sees the manual. We've had a conversation about setup. We've done the live stream video, he and I, just to make sure throws look like it matches what matched our test aircraft and all that. And after all of that preparation, it comes down to he's just got to go mate and fly it. So that's the exciting part of the hobby. We never take for granted that gravity is sort of it's sort of a thing,
Right.
and that's okay. He's taken, I think, his arc over the past 3 years from never flying a balsa aircraft, never setting up a gas engine, never doing a 90 millimeter jet, never having TV, never having a Canard Delta, like all of these sort of things. He's on the cutting edge of learning as we create them, and that's important because that's reflective of what I think a lot of is doing. Not flown an Avanti like that. None of them had flown a twin 80 millimeter A10. None of them had, or at least not a lot of them, had gone through the rigmarole of setting up a balsa aircraft before. So, it keeps us genuine because his nerves are real, and his nerves are probably going to be yours and other people's nerves, and they were certainly my nerves when I first flew that
Oh yeah.
aircraft.
Oh yeah.
So
So
you know
that's
the
funny.
the goal is to transfer all that information so they have it on paper, and from that point on, it's up to him and gravity.
Right. Right.
um, but to answer the other part of your question, someone had asked earlier, do we see in the future our aircraft getting more than 7 channels? To which I answered, no, because most aircraft in real life don't have more than 7 channels. You got pitch, roll, gear, flaps, throttle. I mean, there's only so many things you can do. The T-45, which was probably one of our more complex aircraft with speed brakes and leading edge slats and
Right.
undercarriage and sequence doors, all of those things, it's still a 7-channel bird. So we are from time to time going to try and drop an aircraft that pushes the envelope and sort of pushes all of us to add another skill set to our quiver,
Sure.
such as in a month or so, everyone's going to say, I flew a Canard Delta. So we do want to add
Right.
those skill sets, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we shepherd that transition so that the jump isn't, you know, our core customer family aren't turbine drivers.
Right.
And candidly, seeing as how some of us fly our A-10 and F-14s, I wouldn't want them to fly turbines. but part of it is that it's sort of knowing our audience and knowing that we have people who are like, I'm a turbine driver. I fly big stuff. I build it myself. I want you to do more. I want you to meet me where I'm at. And we say, that's great. Most of our customers, however, are not there yet. We're still going through 70, 80, 90, 6S, 8S now, twins, okay, add extra flying surfaces, canard mixing, okay, thrust vectoring, okay. You move all those things up to get to the point where it's a 120 millimeter Eurofighter with all the bells and whistles, or a twin 120 millimeter Blackbird, or a B-2 Spirit, or something really out there. You want to make sure that most people are going to be ready for it to take out the nerves when the time comes.
Yeah, and that's funny that you mentioned that, because I think that we had this conversation last Friday on your Twitch stream. So guys, like this is the kind of stuff we talk about every week. You don't just have to wait for Alpha to go and be a guest on someone's show like once a quarter. you can get this every week, twice a week. Jump in.
I wouldn't know why you'd want to, but you can.
Because we're all crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's my kind of crazy.
It's because we're all crazy and we love this stuff. And like everything that you're talking about, this is the part of this hobby that I just enjoy the hell out of. Is talking about the innovations and talking about, like, how do we get this crazy shape to fly in RC? Because at the end of the day, that real jet, that's got a computer flying it. And when we're flying at RC, even with a gyro in, that gyro's not doing squat that the real flight computer does on the real plane. You guys have to be able to design a model that's actually gonna fly. Where, like, if the F-16 didn't have the fly-by-wire flight controller in it, it wouldn't fly at all.
That's the myth of dynamic scaling in RC, and you're right, we cover this stuff. It's easier to cover it on our live Discord because it's more of a two-way conversation. People can ask and sort of tell me to shut up and ask me a better question that I'm trying to answer. But the myth of dynamic scaling, in a nutshell, is that we can't just take the big thing and shrink it. The airfoil, toss that out. Undercarriage, toss that out. Intake shape and ducting layout, toss that out. Component layout, toss that out. All you really have to translate is the essence of the shape, not even the shape itself. So the myth of being able to dynamically scale something big to small, it's a myth. It's easier to start from scratch with a 3-view outline than it is to sort of just take a bunch of pictures from different angles and sort of match those angles and match the airfoil. You know this because you've been on those streams. But for people who are curious to sort of see how we go from an airplane exists, a full-size aircraft exists, to it's in a little box that showed up at your house and you can go fly it in a couple hours. Like, that entire process is something we like talking about. And we like, there's a lot of recurring questions. How much does a mold cost? And what happens when you do this? And why don't you do this? But those recurring questions are important for people, for new ears to hear, and then again to learn, and hopefully to then proliferate that knowledge to other people, where it becomes, hey guys, see this thing, wife? It's not just a toy, or coworkers or buddies.
I think
this is cool.
The more people that we can get into these conversations, the more kind of prolific those answers become. Because it's important for people to understand that this isn't just a Yeti cooler. it's the nicest
Yeah,
piece of
it's
foam
really
you
not.
ever bought.
Yeah. It flies. I mean, I'm amazed. This isn't just about us. This is about anyone who's ever designed something that flies. I mean, it flies. Think about that. Something heavier than air leaves the ground on your authority, moves through air, and then returns to the ground under your authority. Like the notion of all the things that have to happen right for that to happen, it's fascinating to me.
Oh yeah.
Endlessly fascinating. Anyone who can make an airplane do that, anyone who ever has and anyone who ever will, that's my respect. So you're right. Sharing that information is part of being a hobbyist. Is knowing deeper things about what makes your stuff tick. It's about engagement and having access to that information. And again, my whole point is in all this hour is I'm just the mouthpiece, just sharing information.
Right.
I'm nothing special.
Well, we all like to think that you are, and I know that everybody that's here tonight, we all greatly appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing some of that insight, from one of our favorite RC companies. Man, we love the products that you guys are coming out with, and I know that I look. There are times. One of the things that's really nice is there are times when new planes come out and you'll see like a 50-50 response of I hate this or I love it. These last two releases, it's been like 99-1. Like 99% of the people are like, I love this plane. And then Dennis Farley says, this sucks, I want a Warbird.
Dennis. We love you, Dennis.
I give Dennis crap all the time. He'll be all right.
I know. Me too.
He's a strong-willed man. So
no, that's
these
that's
last
our
two
hope.
releases though have just been awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. It's yeah, I've got to get rolling here, but again, to your audience, if you haven't liked by now, I'm not gonna make your airplane that you want. So only people who have pressed the like button on Dave's channel here are eligible to have an airplane or car or truck or boat or submarine that they want made to be made. Yeah.
Even thought
I'm gonna cross that Concorde right off that list. Or Dennis. So I know Dennis has already liked your video, but if you haven't, Dennis, I'm gonna cross off that P40 or that email or whatever it is that you want.
I liked my own video, so I'm really looking forward to that Los Angeles class submarine.
You're going for an LA class submarine? Okay. Well, that can be arranged.
I can wait.
That's for another episode. We'll talk about what we're doing in the submarine space and following people like Steve and George out there 3D printing their submarines.
Oh yeah, those things are awesome.
Yeah, but in any case, everyone, I'm gonna take my leave here. Wish everyone well. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay happy. It's just a hobby.
Yes. And, well, again, Alpha, thanks for joining us tonight, and everybody stick around. We're gonna keep the stream going here for a little bit after Alpha departs. But like I said, we really appreciate you coming on tonight, and we will talk with you again soon, my friend.
Goodbye, Dave.
We'll see you, bud.
Cheers, buddy.
All right. So, man, that was a great conversation with Alpha from Motion RC. I hope that everybody goodbye, Dave. I really need to have Alpha on the show more so we can bring out the HAL 9000 and just the interaction between Dave and HAL 9000. That needs to happen as much as possible. So, guys, that was awesome. I really enjoyed that. I hope you guys did too. And James, man, thanks for thanks for suggesting that earlier. Um, I would have loved to have James on the show tonight, and James and I had discussed James coming on the show tonight, and I guess maybe he forgot he had a parent teacher conference tonight, but he had said, "Hey, see if Alpha will come on," and what a what an awesome conversation. So thanks, James, and we're gonna have James on the show soon. I don't know exactly when, but we live like right down the street from each other, so I mean it needs to happen. Yeah, Victor, that was awesome. All right, Randy. Everybody wants to see Amy. I get to see Amy every day. Um, so on to other topics. Oh, I just want to. Yeah, we'll bring James on right now. No, we don't. We don't need to do that. I don't want to put him Johnny on the spot like that. He might already be, you know, in his evening attire. We might not want to see. You want to? You want to, James? Well, we'll bring James into freaking Discord and put him right back. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that. So what we'll do is, I plan on being at the field tomorrow. Um, Now, typically, my shows on the first Monday of the month, which is next Monday, by the way, guys. Next Monday's show right now is planned to be a virtual fly-in. But depending on how things go over this next week or so, I definitely want to see the the Gripen fly. Even if I don't get to fly it myself, I I know Alpha keeps telling me, he's like, just grab the sticks and fly it. Man, you think James is nervous? Like, imagine how nervous I would be, with my hands on the sticks of number one in the United States, the number one and only. Like, no, we'll leave that responsibility in the hands of somebody else. Oh, well, James, which stick are we talking about? Because for one, I'll fight harder than the other. So, um, I won't fly that F-18. So this and this I mean, for the people that understand why I won't fly this F-18, it makes sense, guys. You know, it's it's not just a Blue Angel to me. This is a very specific Blue Angel aircraft with the pilots' names, Buno numbers. Um, there were very specific details that went into this airplane that if I ever this was never purchased really with the intent of flying it around. Now, I do, yes, absolutely, Bravo. This was intended to be a hangar queen, and it always was. I had to fly it at least once. Fortunately, James was there the day that I did fly it, and I forgot to calibrate the ESC, so that sucked. But I do have another Freewing F-18 that's I'm pointing at it right now. It's right there. Uh, we are going to get that Joker finished here soon, and that is going to be a flying machine. As long as it's it's James, that was so funny. Like, is this all she's got, man? I'm like, I've got the throttle jammed. Did you calibrate the ESC? Oh shit. Nope. Oh man. Oh, it flew. It actually flew really well. That was one of the things that I was really surprised with was, even though I knew that I was sorely lacking the power that that plane needed, um, it flew surprisingly well at the lower speeds. And I was kind of in a high alpha the whole flight. Um, and it was awesome, man. I was shaking like a leaf the whole time, like, my God, this is why I didn't want to fly this plane. But thankfully Patrick was there. I was able to pass that football on to him. He landed it like Patrick lands everything, just greased it right in, and I was like, woo, thank you. There'll definitely be a brownout, but it won't be from the radio. That's funny. Well, that's TCAT. What's the difference, really? that's that's why I only have khaki pants. Like, what are you wearing, Jake from State Farm? Khakis. Yep. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'll probably meet you at the field tomorrow, James. I would love to see the plane fly. Are you gonna have Patrick out there flying it with you, or are you gonna try to brave the maiden on this Gripen by yourself? Oh, James, are you doing it? Are you doing it? Oh, yes. Please. I'm bringing my camera. You shouldn't be scared of it. It looks like a big baby. Um, it looks like it's a big baby, and I hope for your sake that it is. But man, with those big canards, I mean, that thing looks like it can do so much in the air with all that control surface movement. Uh, it just looks like you've got just a ton of control authority on every axis on that plane. So I can't wait to see it fly. Um, I mean, that thing is awesome. It is awesome. Yes. So yeah, like I was saying, next week would typically be my uh, virtual fly-in, but if I get out there tomorrow and things go well, I may try and see what's going on next week, because if I get to see the Gripen fly, I have to talk about it. I have to next Monday. It's like mandatory, gouge. I have to spill the beans on what I was able to see, and give you some of that exclusive first look perspective. So I'm ready to roll. Victor, that's true. And I certainly appreciate, that Alpha set it up. But have you ever taken have you ever taken the sticks from someone who set up a plane a certain way that it flies great for them, and when you take the sticks, it just doesn't feel right? I don't know how Alpha flies his planes. I don't know how he likes to set up his throws, how he likes to set up his expo, how he likes to set up his mixes. Um, you know, I don't know how he's setting all that up. What's he using for his rates? Uh, Alpha's setup may be completely different than what I want it set up like. Some people, rather than using high rates and low rates, they'll have, one setting that's 100%, or 100% throws with 20% expo, and their low rates is 100% throws with 70% expo or something crazy like that. So I'm not a big fan of taking the sticks on someone else's airplane because of the small nuances that pilots put into their transmitter programming, if that makes sense. Yeah, Jackson. It's exactly like NASCAR, where every driver, I mean, technically they should all be driving very similar cars, but every single one of those cars drives different, because of the minor uh, differences from one car to the next with chassis adjustments and, this car steers like this, drink GB. This car is a little more loose in the rear. This car is tighter. Uh, those are the things that make this hobby so interesting, is that almost every plane, whether it's through the transmitter or through the control surfaces themselves, through mechanical linkages or whatever, every plane can be tailored to a specific pilot and to feel the way that you like it to feel. What I have, drink GB, what I have for my flap to elevator mix may be a little different than what you have, because I may want a little bit of high alpha in my flap to elevator mix. I may want that there on purpose. Other people may want their flap to elevator mix to put them right at a zero angle of attack. Uh, it's those minor differences that make every model uh, custom for that pilot. And it's one of the reasons that I don't like to fly maidens for people. If someone wants to fly one of my airplanes, I'll certainly let them, but you have to suck it up. You have to deal with my settings. I'm not going to make a new model profile just for you. Oh, that's another thing, is switch locations. Some people drink GB. Some people. Uh, what's funny is I'm conscious that I do it, and even though I'm conscious of it, it still gets out, and I know it immediately when it happens. But that's another thing, is every pilot sets their switches up differently. Uh, what I think is a very standard setup. In fact, I could almost take my 6-channel airplane setup and use that same model for every single one of my 6-channel airplanes. And all I need to do is just call it 6-channel model, and bind that exact same model profile to every receiver in here, and I'd be good to go. Because Drink GB, like my gear switch is always in the same place. My throttle cut's always in the same place. My rates are always in the same place, and they always do the same thing. It's always 100, 85, and 70, no matter what the airplane is, for all three control surfaces. I don't split my control surface rates. I don't have different rates for my ailerons and elevators, even though I probably should try that. My flaps are always in the same place. My flight mode switch is always in the same place. Everything is just so, and it's just how I like it. If I'm gonna have a gain adjustment, it's always on the knob at the top of the radio. If I'm gonna have aileron like pitch gain adjustment, if I'm gonna have that's gonna be on the right slider. If I'm gonna have a yaw gain adjustment, that's always on the left slider. All my radios or all my model profiles are set up identical. Now, I don't even know why I make different profiles for each receiver. I should just bind the same profile to every one, and my life would be so much easier. So, Ryan, one guy's mushy, to that guy, Drink GB, I said it again. So one guy's mushy plane, to him, it may have felt great. Or maybe that's why he gave it to you in the first place, was like, my airplane doesn't feel right, and I don't know what's wrong. And then you look at it, and he's got like 80% Expo mixed into the Rolexes. Like, well, this could cause some of that mush. Yeah. Right, James, and I think that usually when I make that change, when I change my rates in flight, I go from like low rates to mids to highs, whatever the case may be. I'll usually like the way a plane feels, especially like faster jets and things like that. At slower speeds, I want that full, 100% gain or rate authority on my roll, so I can make my approach at slower speeds. But at the higher speeds, I'll dial it back. I'll use the rate switch and dial it back to like 85% or 70%. And I think I may be better off. Like, I always feel like I'm lacking for elevator authority. So I may do what you're talking about there, and and not dial back the elevator so much in my rate changes. So be like 100, 85, 70, or maybe 100, 75, 50, whatever the case may be, and stay at like 190, 80 on the elevator. So that's all stuff that I can experiment with. I just know that the system I have now seems to work out well. It's 100% high rates, 85 mids, 70% low rates, 20% expo across the board on everything, and that feels right to me. That's my go-to baseline. And if the plane feels too mushy, I'll dial back the expos to like 15%. If it feels, still a little too snappy for me, I'll dial it up a little bit, to 25%, and that's usually where I'll start, is like 5% increments. Um, and just keep dialing it in until I get it where I want it. Well, That's how I fly, Spencer. I like to fly like grandma. JCB, I also saw that Amazon and their drone program has been given the green light by the FAA, which means that all of the regulations that the FAA was about to throw down for drone operations, I can imagine that that's all going to be coming out here pretty soon. Yeah, Boss 223, that's a good point. And I'd say for the most part with warbirds, I haven't found a prop plane yet that I've needed to come out of 100% rates on. I typically fly all of my prop planes at 100% rates. Um, for the most part, it's jets where I find that I need to dial, that I need to hit that rate switch. Like for example, the MiG-29, I fly that on 100% rates all the time. Everything at 100% rates, and it flies awesome with no gyro. So it really just depends on the plane. Craig Beaven, yes, 100% across the board, 20% expo. All of my prop planes, that's how I fly them. 100% rates, 20% expo on every control surface. And it just feels good to me. And I'll tell you what, back in the day of the old Futaba Conquest 4-channel radios, that's all you had was 100% rates with no expo. There was no such thing as dual rates and expo back then. Yeah, Amazon drones. I don't know how that's going to work out. And you know, like Brian and Guniak, all these guys that are saying like, I remember those days. They weren't that long ago. I mean, even in the world of Spectrum, which is, as far as radio companies go, one of the younger radio brands. Of course, they were born from JR, but as a brand, you know, Spectrum is not that old. Um, their first radios, like the DX6i, the DX5i, uh, I don't think those may have had dual rates, but I don't recall them having any expo in them. They just had servo reversers at the bottom, and that was it. You know, that was the limit of your ability to control. There weren't multiple models. There was, I think, there was a high and low rate switch, and it wasn't programmable for nothing. The switches did what they did, and if you didn't like them, tough titties. Right, Josie B, that's correct. Where rate and travel was all mechanical. And it still should be to some extent, JCB. Like I don't depend on the radio to set my model up. When I am setting up a model, whatever is happening at 100% rates is all mechanically correct. I don't like to trim an airplane. It's not that I don't like to trim an airplane. I'll trim an airplane if it's out of whack, but I make sure that everything is mechanically centered. I'm adjusting clevises, I'm adjusting ball links, I'm adjusting everything. I'm adjusting the nose wheel, the rudders. Everything is mechanically sound before I ever take that airplane off the first time. I may not always calibrate the ESC, but I do an ass ton of pre-flight checks. Right, James? What does my GB? That's awesome. That's exactly what I like. That's my favorite thing in the world to do is mechanically adjust the ball links. I like to twist them. Wait. So yeah, it may have been like the DX. Well, anyway, like those original Spectrum radios that were just clunkers. uh, I mean, they were the basic of basic. Um, and there's still some out there like that are just super super basic, and don't have any adjustments. And when you're flying a transmitter like that, you don't have the luxury of setting three different rates or setting 5 to 10 flight modes and having all these different flap settings and flap to elevator mixes and whatever else that we can do with our fancy radios. Uh, I mean, we are spoiled rotten in this hobby now. And everything that the radios do for us now brings us closer and closer to the realism of flying the actual airplane. And that's what I love about it. That's what I love about this hobby and how this hobby has progressed over time. And people that say, like, I want it to be like it was back in the day. Remember, I was saying that with Alpha, like, no, you don't, dude. No, you don't. Never ever say that again. Like, what gyros bring to the table and what all the computer radios bring to the table and the adjustments and everything that we can do now makes this hobby so much better, and the planes fly so much better than they ever have before. Never say that you want it to be like it was back in the day. Like, you go back there, I'm staying right here with all my technology and my computer radio and my 87,000 adjustments that I can do inside my transmitter and my super whammy gyros and self-leveling if I want it. Even though I never use it, it's still there. I don't care, man. I will take the technology all day every day. And people that want to fly it old school, more power to you. Flying linear. I don't think so. Flying linear. Man, uh, I think that's. No, I mean, even those old radios had to have some expo built in. But, like, flying a plane with zero expo. I know there's people that do it, but maybe they turn their rates way down. I don't know. I don't know how they're doing it to keep it from being so twitchy. Maybe they're using like the innermost hole of their servo arm to really limit the mechanical resolution of the servo. I mean, who knows? Who knows what they're doing? Woo! James, we'll see you at the field tomorrow, brother. Bring the heat. Bring the heat, biatch. Oh, I do too. I think that the technology. Yeah, I'm not one of those people, James. If you put me on linear curves at 100% rates, I would crash everything I own. Oh, you never know when James is at the field, man. He's like the king heckler. That's why I want to be there for the first flight of the Gripen, so I can be like heckler number one. It'll be awesome. He's got another one on the way. Alpha already said it's okay if he crashes it. It's good, man. All right. Hey, thanks for stopping by tonight, James. I appreciate it. And guys, we're gonna be calling it a night here soon because we got to. Oh, you're gonna flip a vertical. Yes, yes. James, you ain't got a hair on your lower extremities to try that. I'm gonna call it now. Not one hair on your lower extremities to try what you just said. If he crashes it, I'll tell. Isn't that always how it is, James? Like, damn, that was awesome. Oh, yeah, man, I meant to do that. Like, half the awesome stuff that I do with my airplanes, completely unintentional. But everyone's like, dang, that was sweet. I'm like, oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, that was sweet. Oh, dude. I don't think that. Have you ever put that out for the public to see, James? That hawk video? That was awesome. That was so awesome. The, the public needs to see that. Oh. And it was the same hawk video where you like flew behind the clubhouse and you couldn't even see the plane, and then it just pops up all of a sudden. You flew through the fence. That was so badass. Uh yeah, it's amazing to me that that thing, made it out on the other side of that. That was I would say, that was amazing piloting. But what really happened is Jesus took the sticks and you weren't flying it at all. Right? Yes. Yes, that's exactly what happened. Keep flying it, pull up. Oh, man. Fun stuff. All right, so before we get going, guys, I am going to. We are going to do a shout out for all of our sheriffs. And a quick reminder, we do have channel memberships. The channel memberships just go back to help, contribute to the air marshal community. Man, so if y'all want to support the air marshal community, it's going to cost you like $1.99 a month. And you get to use them UMX emojis, UMX dogs. Bang, dang, 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 ding, 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 ding. So if y'all want some UMX dog emojis. It just costs you $1.99 a month. Guys, that's like 20 cents a stream if there's 5 Mondays. Or 25 cents a stream if there's only 4. And we have 3 different tiers. For as low as $1.99 a month, you can join us. And we've got some member perks that you guys can check out that include some discounts to our merch store. So if you're interested in getting some Air Marshal merch, the best tees in RC, be sure to check in the description for this video or any of my recent videos, and you can go over to our Teespring store to check out some Air Marshal merch. We got t-shirts, we got coffee cups, we got pillows, we got hoodies, stickers. There's all kinds of stuff on the Teespring store to check out if you're interested in getting some Air Marshal merch. The hats are not on there, and we're working on that. So anyway, for my sheriffs, which is our highest tier level, you guys always get a call out every week on the live show, and our sheriffs, in order of the day you joined the channel, is Flying Times, Mike SSI, Spencer Keith, Dave Kowiski, William Bergita, Dennis Farley, RC Stinger, Mike Keller, Joseph Ramsey, Jet Tech Don Atkins, Sandros 54, Ken Sprouse Jr., and Mr. George Watts. Thank all you guys for coming in strong at the highest level of support and becoming members of the RC Air Marshal YouTube channel. You guys are all fantastic, and I appreciate every one of you. Now, let's go back over to... How do I get back here? Ding, 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 ding. Limited. All right. So, thank you guys all for coming out tonight. We are going to be stepping aside and making room for Gooniac. Take yourselves a little 10-15 minute break. Thank you, George Watts. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know what we did tonight. I think it might have been because I had the HAL 9000 picture that our monetization got knocked tonight. I'll have to see what that's all about. So if you haven't been able to do super chats tonight for whatever reason, it's probably because I was using a copyrighted image or something stupid. They can suck it. Anyway, it was great to see you guys this week. Next week, if I get a chance to see the Gripen fly, we're going to do a live show next week, and we'll just do the virtual fly-in the week after. But that will need to be talked about. I have to talk about that next week if I get to see it. So, I mean, it just is what it is. And we'll just do the virtual fly-in the next week. Anyway, you guys all, again, thank you for coming out. I love doing this for you guys. It was a lot of fun having Alpha here tonight, and I hope you guys enjoyed the hell out of that. I know that I did. And, man, what a great guy. So, we will see you guys next Monday. If it's a virtual fly-in, we'll see you next Monday. And if we're talking about the Gripen, we'll see you next Monday. Either way, we'll see you next Monday. You guys all have a great week. Happy flying. And see you in Gooniac Show. Good night, guys.